this apartment was on Georgia Tech's campus?
I lived in Atlantic Station in a place called The Flats. It's actually right across the street from IKEA.
So why did the Georgia Tech police come, I guess?
So it's so close to Tech. So if you're I was on the front side, the IKEA side. If you're on the back side, your view is the Georgia Tech golf course. So because we're so close to them, they just automatically came. But then when they, of course, found out I was a student, then the dean of students came and, it was a whole thing.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, do you want to do the honors today?
Boom shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Worst Ones podcast. This is the platform for us preachers' kids to come and talk our shit. My name is Rudy Wilson. I'm a PK. Got Jeriana in the building. She's a PK. Kellie Leezy in the building. Terry Weezy. We are about to throw up looking at his pocket swing in the camera. Getting very nauseous. Oh, guess he's not going to stop. Kellie and Janessa, you guys are on mute, but how are you guys doing?
It's a really awkward visual that we have of Terry. It's a very awkward visual. But since I'm already talking, I'm doing well. Can't complain. Well, am I telling the truth? So
what did I complain about?
I was like, wait a minute, is this one of those times where you're like, oh no, I'm doing well? And I'm like, oh no, this is time where I can be honest. And
Girl, what happened?
I got halfway through and I was like, wait, I'm not doing well. Nah, for real, I'm doing okay. It's just, I may have said this before, but it's just busy time work-wise. It just makes me want to cry and shut down and roll up in a ball and sleep. I hate this time of the year. So it's stressful, but on the nice side, I got a lot of compliments, random compliments this week. Compliments make me feel good. Compliment others.
Compliments about what?
So I had a 4th grade and a 5th grade male, even though it looks crazy on the camera, but said, "Oh, I like your hair." Thought that was nice. I know. I got a compliment on my job and how well I do. My supervisor asked me if I wanted like a support, it's called a lead position. I told her no, but I appreciated her for considering me. I appreciated her for considering me. And then I got a couple of compliments on my weight loss this week. Couple of teachers at my school who have known me since I was smaller and then gained the weight and now I've lost the weight again, compliment me on how good I look. And they even gave some insight on where they felt like I was able to, I guess, release some things to be able to lose some weight. So I thought that was interesting, and it's always interesting to see how people view you from the outside, people who you don't really communicate with often, and so they had attributed some of it to a coworker relationship that I had with a coworker, and how when I stepped back from it a little bit, that they noticed that that I just kind of, for lack of better words, leveled up. I was able to drop some of the weight. I was able to be more productive at work.
Was this coworker like stressful, or were y'all like going out to lunches a lot or something?
Both.
Okay. You and such and stuff, stop going to Golden Corral.
Right. Corral. Both, because she was stressed and it used to stress me. Okay. And then I'm a stressed eater. And so I would typically bring my lunch because I'm cheap. But then if she'll say, "Oh, let's go to, get some pizza," or "Oh, let's go to get some nachos," or "Oh, let's go get wings and fries," I'm like, "Okay."
Right.
Yeah. I would say okay too.
Right. I'm like, okay. And so, but it was just interesting, again, just to hear someone who you see often, you know, but don't really communicate, kind of give their insight on, you know, how you've progressed throughout the year. So, well, yeah, it was good. So, like I said, it's been a good week in that sense. In terms of, like I said, I've just gotten a lot of compliments. My bucket has been filled. People have said nice things, but it's still just a difficult time. And I'm gonna probably say that every week until the end of May.
Have you gotten the man who remembered you 10 years later for the dress you wore in the choir?
That's when we're at the ultimate compliment level. That is when.
What happened, Kelly? I missed it. What happened?
You don't remember the story Rudy had told one day about the girl in the choir?
Oh,
yeah. That's my ultimate compliment. When somebody that's my ultimate compliment. Let me tell you, I'm gonna claim this now. That's gonna be my husband.
Gotcha.
Name it and claim it.
Low key, not about weight, but funny off topic story. That did happen. I had a guy who was just like, man, I just remember the first day I met you, you were still in school at Spelman. And I just knew it was something different about you. And I'm like, man, I graduated from from college 10 plus years ago.
Right.
I don't remember the first time I met you, but it was sweet. It was nice. But I'm still waiting for that dress moment. That dress in the choir moment. That's top tier compliment. That's top tier. Top tier there. Can't wait.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're glad you know, at least in decent spirits, even though I guess you're freaking out behind the scenes.
When the last time y'all see me drink on the podcast?
I'm right there with you. Well, I would have had a regular glass, but I didn't have any clean. So this Christmas glass is what y'all gonna get today in April.
Exactly. Listen.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Jay Rihanna, how you doing?
I'm good. Toes almost healed. I tried to do a little modified Zumba class last week, which was that was a bad idea.
Oh man.
It was like a twerk and fit brunch class. And I told
know they make up some stuff in Atlanta.
Girl.
They know they make up some stuff in Atlanta.
Twerk and brunch.
About a Zumba class. There wasn't no Zumba class. This working.
It's a Zumba class called the Twerk and Branch, and I love my Zumba instructor.
Zumba throw that ass in a circle edition.
Why you have mimosas?
They did. They did. We had a whole breakfast spread with the mimosas right after you shook that monkey. You know.
There you go.
We know we make up some stuff.
We had to have well, I didn't get to do it, but she asked us to bring knee pads because of course we had to scrub the ground like old and new, You gotta get the Migos in, you gotta get everybody. But no, so I had told myself, like, Janessa, you can't get excited, focus on the upper body, whatever. But then how the Holy Ghost hit people, like the twerk spirit hit me. Twerk spirit hit me. And I hit one move, y'all. And my toe, like the pain shot up through my leg. And I was just like, okay, all right, okay, we not healed yet. We not healed. So I'm still technically have 2 more weeks in a boot. And I'm just going to take it easy and not try to overdo it because, yeah. Gotcha. But other than that, I'm good.
Gotcha.
He said, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
All right.
Kelly, I'll bring you next time to the next twerking break.
Tell me. Yes, girl. I'm there. I like made up stuff, made up events. Talking about Zumba. Zumba has a Latin feel. We don't have no food doing twerking break.
Twerking break.
I'm there. I'm not the best twerker, but I'm there. Give me enough mimosas and
it's all women, so you can just be free and do your best.
Well, I had the opposite. I had the opposite of Kelly's week. Like, I didn't get any compliments, and I got one insult. So somebody thought I was my girlfriend's dad. So that's.
Well,
I mean, I'm choosing to take it as a compliment because I can get girls young enough that they look like my daughter. So
I was about to say, how young is the young lady?
It's 29.
Oh, she's not that young.
No. I know.
Does she look like a baby?
20-year-old.
What?
I said, I thought you may have been out here with a 19, 20-year-old.
I have been before, but that's
When
whatever.
you were 19 and 20, please.
No, when I was like 35.
Oh,
You were 19 and 20, please.
Well, the rule, I believe the rule is half your age plus 7 is the acceptable limit. So at 35, it would have been what? So half my age. Yeah.
Right, I want to ask.
It didn't right. I said no. You do the math because it didn't. I was waiting for him to do the math. Like no.
No, it would have been 22. 22 would have been the limit. And I did break it twice, but whatever. It doesn't matter. All right. Divorce is hard on everybody. So
I can understand that.
Well, other than your insult, how else have how you been doing?
Good. I smoked a pork shoulder for Easter. I don't think I mentioned that last time, but that turned out really well. So I was happy about that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Janessa, did you smoke a pork shoulder today when you grilled?
I just smoked.
No, that's for the big
grilled some salmon.
Terry. Salmon.
Some salmon. Some salmon.
No, it's salmon.
Janessa had the healthiest cookout I've ever heard of. She was like, I grilled salmon, asparagus, corn,
and some wine.
Sounds delicious.
It was delicious.
My shoulder was delicious. I smoked it for 12 hours, so it was just falling apart.
Is it the actual shoulder too? Like, is it the actual pig shoulder?
Yeah, that's why they call it pork shoulder. Yeah.
Well, they call it. It's something else that was. Cause I was just watching this cooking show and I can't think of it. But they called it something, but it wasn't that.
There's a couple different names, but it's all the same thing.
Oh, it was pork. It was pork butt, is what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't the actual butt of the pig.
No, that's another name. Boston butt is another name.
Okay, wait. So what's the pork butt? Is not the butt?
No, it's a pork. When somebody says pork butt, they're usually saying pork shoulder is what they're meaning to that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, I'm a busy guy. Let's get on with it.
Oh, excuse me.
You was the latest person. What are you talking about?
That's right, because I was dealing with an AC guy, and now I'm over here out at the Improv, and
Where are you
tonight? Right.
I don't.
I'm supporting my other podcast co-host as her show.
Hey.
Hello.
Rudy knows Gio.
Oh, did I miss somebody? Sorry.
Yeah, you did. It's too late.
Cool. All right.
No.
I'm doing swell. All is well with me.
No, he says, hey.
Well, Terry, floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Are women responsible for all the evil in the world? And we're talking specifically about Eve and, biting the old apple.
All right. So I'm going to start being the bad Christian and preacher's kid.
Okay.
So I need you guys to give me a timeline again of what happened in the garden. Just remind me of the order that things happened there again. I think I remember. I want to make sure.
He gives Adam and Eve a choice. He says, you can eat from the tree of life, or you can eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Satan, in guise as a snake, starts to tempt Eve. Eve submits eventually, tries the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then convinces Adam to do the same. God finds out, and then he kicks him out into what is now the world.
You need us to tell you who Jesus is as well? I mean, my goodness.
Yeah,
I mean, it is kind of a famous story. You know what I'm saying?
My goodness, Kelly.
Well, you're going to see because I got a lot of questions.
Okay. So I think, Kelly, though, because there is a part, and I was trying to look it up, because, anywho, where I think God didn't tell Eve. And so when Satan approached Eve, she really didn't know. But I think when she brought it to Adam, Adam did know, and he didn't say like, "No, that's not what we're supposed to be doing." I think that's how it really went down, but I can be wrong.
But that's
Maybe.
the details I'm trying to get to, because when you say, are women the reason for evil? See,
Yeah.
we have to dig deep into who was given the instruction, who was given the directive from God, who
Well, that the whole part about not him telling Adam but not telling Eve, I don't recall that part. I don't think he like whispered it to Adam and then was like, just keep it to yourself, you know. Like, I don't think that was the case.
So I don't know, because because I guess my question goes to later on in the Bible, where it talks about men being the lead and the head of the household and the leaders, and that piece, where we blame Eve, or people blame Eve for being tempted first by the serpent, but then she gave the apple to Adam, who we all know that he was well aware, whether Eve knew or not, he was well aware of the directive and the instruction that was given to him, and he ate the apple anyway.
Well, where's that place? I might stop by on the way if he just wants to throw me up.
I'm about to say the places in Genesis. In the garden.
Where did this happen now? Jesus. Okay.
I'm like, you the one just gave me the story.
Hold on, guys. The technician is here for my house. So hold on. I'll be back.
And that's what I was going to say, if somebody could look up to see, because I definitely know that God definitely did tell Adam. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that he told Adam prior to creating Eve. Right. But I could be wrong, because I don't want to stand firm on that, because I don't know for sure. But I feel like that's kind of how it played out. But even so, to your point, Kelly, I do think that the responsibility can be probably more considered shared than solely on the woman, because we kind of look at Eve because she did it first,
right?
You know what I'm saying? But I think maybe even a better question is, what would have happened if Eve would have eaten, but Adam would have still said no? You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, would only women be out here, having the knowledge of good and evil, and men just still be, dumb and walking around naked, and we. Like, I don't know what made Adam go ahead and agree to, join in with her, with what she did, but yeah, I don't know. I think it may be kind of more shared, because at the end of the day, they both still did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they both still did what God told Adam not to do.
Exactly. That was my point, because this topic actually came from my girlfriend. She had the idea, because she's like, I've always heard that women ruined everything. And there are some people. I think Catholics believe that that's why women have to deal with the pain of childbirth and menstruation and all that.
Right.
Was because of that indiscretion. But I don't agree with that, because if a woman talks you into robbing a bank, you can't really go to the judge and be like, well, she said, like, you make your own choices.
Which is true. And I don't know if I've ever heard that Eve ruined it for everybody. I just always heard, especially women, that talk about how Eve ruined it for women, for, as far as what you just talking about, Terry, the labor pains and menstrual periods, right, whatever the case may be. But in reference to, like, I don't know if I've ever heard women taking the blame for, just say, all of humanity, but I can definitely see how that comes up, because once again, Eve was the first to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, if she would have never, then Adam would have never. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they both still did, though, regardless of, the reason. Yeah. So
exactly. But you got to remember, in the Garden of Eden, there was no pain, there was no suffering, there was no death, there was no evil. Evil came into the world.
Or at least you didn't know of it.
Yeah, exactly, because you had to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Like, they didn't know that evil existed until they ate that apple.
Real quick, I looked it up. It's Genesis 3, just 3, basically. But the serpent approached Eve, basically, and she was like, "No, we can eat anything but this." And the serpent was like, "Surely you're not gonna die. Surely not. Like, it's good." And so I guess he convinced her, so she ate it, and she also gave some to her husband, and he ate it. And then the eyes of the two were open, from what you were just saying. So it seems like nobody. It's like you knew better, but you don't do better.
Right. So they definitely both knew, and she even brought it up in the conversation with the serpent. Once again, I mean, is it? I to the question, I still don't see it as solely the fault of a woman, because especially somebody like me who's so, strong-minded in my decision making. Like, I can easily tell a girl I'm with, no, just, I don't care, just because she wants to do it. And that's one thing if I want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if God says don't have sex, till you're married, and the girl I'm dating wants to have sex and I want to have sex, it probably wouldn't take much convincing, you know what I'm saying, for me to do it. But if it was something I didn't want to do, I probably wouldn't have. So, like, it seems like Adam either really wanted to do it, or, he was curious too. Like, oh man, like you did it, nothing happened to you. Maybe I should try it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could have been any other reason, but I still feel like he had to have some type of responsibility in there, because it ain't like once she ate it, it affected him as well. He still had to eat. You know what I'm saying? And he did.
That's an interesting question. What would happen if one person ate and the other person didn't?
Right. I think Eve would have been dejected, and God would have said, "All right, let's make you another one. Let's make you one that follows instructions." All right, they're calling me. I gotta go, guys. I'll try to get back on when I'm done.
Even okay, all right, Terry. But see, even I honestly, I thought that was part of. I thought he was still adding on to. But even that's a. It's interesting, because we talked about even last week about, I forgot how we got on the subject, but we were talking about, like, did God even create evil? And a lot of times we even talk about how evil didn't exist until Adam and Eve did what they did, but I feel like it did exist, because it's saying that if you eat from this, you'll now have the knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, even that conversation is kind of tricky, because, like, if I have no idea that good and evil exists, and then you tell me that good and evil does exist, and I'll have the knowledge of it from something, I feel like that's low-key knowledge of it existing. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we just talked about it existing, and how do you want me to know?
So when y'all talked about it existing, were you talking about it from the perspective of humans knowing, or just did God create good and evil, period, out of all time?
Like, last week, well, I was talking about, because we were talking about the death penalty, and so I was just talking about how, like, because God created everything, like even the death penalty, or just things that are bad in general, like he has some level of responsibility for, because he created humans, and even if humans created evil, he still created us, which ultimately it stems from him. And so me and Terry was going back and forth, because he was saying, well, God didn't create evil, and so on and so forth. And so I just was thinking about that going into this conversation, because once again, to say that if you eat from this tree, you'll have the knowledge of good and evil, at least in my human mind, it comes off as, well, good and evil did exist. Humans just didn't have the knowledge of maybe what the difference of the two were. You know what I'm saying?
And I agree. And I say that because, there's the whole situation before humans were ever formed. There was the whole Michael falling from heaven, him trying to basically take over and become, I guess, God, or try to become a version of God. And, he was banned, and a third of the angels was banned. And so, you could say that was an evil situation, but that happened at least, I don't know how far in advance before us, but it happened before us.
Right.
So at the point where we come in, God and the devil are separated, or Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. They're separated. So there is this level of good and evil already in place before we even get here. And apparently there's some type of arrangement, or that's for lack of a better word, where God allowed the serpent to be there. Because I really feel like if God didn't want him to be there, he wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
Kind of like how God gives us our own free will. Like, if he really wanted us to do something, it's nothing for God to make us do something.
Right.
So I feel like, I don't know all the details, obviously, but if God allowed the serpent to be in the presence of the people he made, and there's already this distinction between the serpent and God, like there's been this whole drama and fallout between basically good and evil. You know, like there was that did exist before we came. And I agree to your point, Rudy. We didn't know about it. You know, when God created Adam and Eve and he was telling them, you know, you have dominion over all this stuff and name the animals, and, you know, I'm going to give you a helpmate. You know, when God was doing all of that, he didn't say nothing about evil. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say nothing about the devil or anything like that. And so I agree. It wasn't until they ate the tree that now all of a sudden, and it goes on further to the separation between God and humans. Like if Eve never did, or Adam and Eve never ate from the tree, we would never have been separated from God. Right. You know, there would never have been that separation. So it's actually, when I think about it, it's kind of deep. Just like at first, you know, we were mad at Eve because of the cramps and the menstrual and the labor pains, but now I'm like, girl, we could have been in glory all this time. Girl.
But would we have been, or I just feel like, or would it have been something else that would have separated us?
It probably would have been, because you know we can't get it right.
Right. I said I feel like something else would have happened. It just may have been in Exodus instead of Genesis. Like whatever. Like it just something else would have happened to separate us from God. So I guess to what you were saying, Janessa. So Rudy's point, and you may have, I hope you didn't address this. Rudy's point last time was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that God, yes, Terry's point was that God did not create evil. Yours, Rudy, was he had to, because he's the creator of all things and could have started, you know, went in between all things. So going back to last week, since we missed you last week, Janessa, and then coming back to this week, what are your thoughts? So did God create evil? So you gave us the situation, which I think we didn't talk about last week, which was a good one, of the situation with Michael, the angel, you know, separate himself, trying to take over, and, you know, God exiling him, that happened before Adam and Eve. So was that circumstantial? Is that just life? Is that just kind of how things happen? Did God know that was going to happen? Did he create that scenario? Like, how do you feel about that in terms of God creating evil?
And before you answered, you are correct, Kelly, as far as what I said, because I'm only correcting or giving this caveat because I don't know if I'm saying that God created it, but I do put a level of responsibility on him, because even if, just say, because Terry was making a point that us humans created evil, but I was then making a point, but God created us humans, which to me is the root of where everything comes from. Which, if evil came from somewhere, I don't know. But that's what I am putting a level of responsibility on God. But I don't know if I'm saying he.
I got that
directly.
Just trying to look up a scripture real quick. Did God create evil? So I do feel like God created everything. And I think that in his creation, I wouldn't say necessarily without evil, we would choose God, but I feel like with evil, when you choose God, you really are choosing God, if that makes sense. Like you have the option to go this way or that way, but you are making a distinct decision to choose this, which i.e. God. And I low-key feel like that was God's design. Like I want to put them in a situation to see what their heart really is about. Because I was listening to another podcast and what one of my friends does, and she was talking about how bad people go to heaven. You can kill somebody and go to heaven. And how that, really messed her up. Like, what? Especially if you think about it, like if someone killed your loved one, your parents, your husband, your child, and then you get to heaven and you see them there, skipping on the streets of gold. Like,
Bathsheba husband seen David in heaven, I'm sure.
There we go.
What was his name? Uriah. What's his name? Uriah.
But it's not that God, I don't say he doesn't care about the actions, but he cares about the heart. So if you really have changed your ways and have really dedicated your life and have pledged your life to him, that's what God wants. And so, of course, I don't know what God's ways are, but in my head, I low-key feels like he set it up like that so that he would know who really is for him and who's not. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was going to change the subject a little bit, but to change the subject, but to that point, I remember I got so offended one time. I was working with, when I lived in Delaware, I was working with this Feed the Homeless organization. And so the person that was leading the organization had experienced homelessness at one point and made the comment that his prayers were deeper than mine or more heartfelt than mine because of his struggles.
Wow.
And so because I had never experienced homelessness or, food scarcity or any of those things, that his prayers, were heard by God or more, not even heard by God, but they were just more powerful or more meaningful or whatever than mine. And so it just, what you were saying, Janessa, just kind of made me think about that with, without, to his point. Now I disagreed again. I could see where he was coming from. I can see what he was trying to say. I didn't necessarily agree, but I could see where he was coming from. But what made me think about that was when you had said, the part about would people, I felt like he was thinking from would people choose God in the absence of evil? So if I didn't have these temptations or these desires, or if I didn't fall into these bad situations or illnesses or death or those type of things, and everything was just happy-go-lucky every single day and everything was perfect, then would I choose God? Would I continue to pray and go to church and read and seek God and love God if everything was great? We do find ourselves when we're in bad situations, faced with evil things, going to God more. Lord, I really need you. Lord, if you get me home today, I'll never drink again or whatever. And so I forgot what I was about to say, but your point just made me think about that situation that I had with that guy, just thinking about, I don't, does God test us?
I mean, I know that there is a scripture that talks about as far as like the testing of your faith, worketh patience or something like that, or I don't, maybe it's something I agree, but it means, but there's definitely, I guess, a testing in the sense of like us going through, like you said, and then relying on God. But see, even I still feel like that's even kind of slightly different than the Adam and Eve situation, because like they did that and then start ducking God. You know what I'm saying? Like they were shamed because of just say their disobedience to God, and hiding themselves because they were naked and all this stuff. And so God saying like, who told you that, and all this type of stuff. So like it always goes back to the whole free will conversation for me. Because even when Janessa was talking about like I guess like God kind of like putting us through things or whatever to see like where our heart is. Even going to the whole situation about putting the blame on women, like I personally don't know if Eve and or Adam could have not eaten from the tree. Like I don't even know if they, because of just say how God wanted life to work out, like could Lucifer have not did whatever he did to get become Satan or whoever else got kicked out. And like any of these people, the people who crucified Jesus, like could they have not done it? You know what I'm saying? Like, or did they have to because Jesus had to die the way that he had to die? Like, there's no way Jesus can be crucified if there aren't evil people to do it. You feel what I'm saying? So it's a that's where it always just gets tricky for me because even to what you said, Janessa, about like if God didn't want the serpent there, like it could have went a different way. If he didn't want the tree there, it could have went a different way. If he didn't want evil to exist at all, like it could have went a different way. But he didn't choose that route, but he's also all knowing. So it's kind of like I don't know, like what is if God didn't create evil, then then who is there like another powerful entity that's like equal with God? And sometimes you can see like a painting of like God and the devil playing chess with each other, like almost kind of like how it look in life. And I don't know if I can minimize God to be on an equal level with anybody to be saying like, you made a move, now I'm making a move. You made a move, now I'm making a move. That's why I don't even give the devil credit in my life. Like I don't never say the devil attacking me, he busy in my life, because I just don't feel like he has power over me. Like if something bad happened, I just feel like that's just what, like God allowed it to happen. Just like with Job, you know what I'm saying? Like God gave the devil permission, you know what I'm saying, to do it. And the devil did do it, but it was still God's doing. He couldn't have done it without God,
right?
You know what I'm saying, giving him that leeway. You know,
because if he would have tried to do it, he would have got shut down.
You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been a thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I don't. The evil thing is kind of tricky because once again, powerful things have happened as a result of evil. Whether you're talking about Jesus Christ, whether you're talking about a George Floyd, a Martin Luther King, a lot of different people experience just say evil in their lives as a result of. And I'm not saying that George Floyd, I guess, was doing good in the moment, but his death, sparked a huge movement all over the world. There's people in other countries protesting, all because of this video that everybody's seen. But it happened from a evil person. You know what I'm saying? Or at least them being evil in that situation. Do significant things change or happen without evil being present? Does a Noah build an ark without evil being present? You know what I'm saying? Does any of these things happen without evil being present? And all these people are they triumph off of just say evil being present, but at the same time, we're saying that God has no not us, but in general, we're saying God has no responsibility for evil existing. I find it kind of hard if he is the creator of all and he has this full system of how things are working out. And once again, evil is being used to save our souls because Jesus had to die and so on and so forth. So it's just, it's tricky to me when it comes down to evil. Yes. But even going back to the topic, I personally don't put the blame on women. I put it on, I'm going to say, I don't know if I want to use the word blame, but I definitely put the responsibility on God because Eve didn't create herself. Eve didn't, put the serpent there. She didn't put the fruit there, the tree there, whatever. Like she operated, in my opinion, based off of something that God created. You know what I'm saying? Like, because once again, could she have not done it? Did Eve actually have the power to not do it? Or because this is how God planned it, she had to do it?
And I think it's tricky I know for me, it's hard to wrap my head around it because we've only lived the life that we live. We've only seen the history books and, have been taught what we've been taught. But we're, because God is God, who is to say that if there was a world with no evil, that we wouldn't just pick God? Like, who knows? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I think with this world that we're in, when I think about like all that has happened, fun fact about me, I like history. And so I didn't like history in high school, but I like history now. So I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning the other night, and I was watching this documentary on Pearl Harbor. And I was just like, trying to understand, how did we get to this? What happened? How did we get to Nagasaki and Hiroshima? Like, what in the world? You hear these things, but like, what exactly happened? And, it was mind blowing just how evil people are and how greedy people are and how all these negative things people are. And I'm just like, man, what if we lived in a world where there wasn't greed? You know what I'm saying? Where there wasn't the issues that we have today. If we didn't have those issues, what would the world look like? How would it function? Because, with COVID and everything going on recently in world events, a lot of people are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a lot of people are suffering, and the rich keep getting richer. I don't know if y'all been keeping up with current events. I think, is it Elon Musk who bought Twitter or something like that? And it was like 3 people on SpaceX, Twitter, Amazon. It's like all Disney, all these huge conglomerates.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 3 people have so much power and influence and all this stuff. And it's just like, can we just like be nice and kind to one another?
Mm-hmm.
Can we like just make sure everybody has food and housing and health and education?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It blows my mind sometimes, and it's a little hopeless, but I guess that's why we need Jesus.
Right. Okay, was you about to say something?
No, go ahead. I was, but I can't remember now. Go ahead.
That's a good point, Janessa, because I even thought about that when I can't remember what I was watching, but it made me put it into perspective. But they were talking about a movie, and they just say like the budget for the movie was over $100 million, like just for the budget of it. And normally when a movie spends that much, they expect to make at least $1 billion in the box office. Like that's the whatever. But I also thought about this, like, and this probably doesn't really pertain to y'all, but as far as in my field, like, is it worth me spending just say $120 million on a movie versus using that same 120, if not half of it or a good portion of whatever, towards, to your point, people who starve in somewhere or rebuild? Because like I'm literally spending $100 million on a film. You know what I'm saying? Like on a movie. Like
to entertain people.
Entertainment. And then and it's one thing if it was an investment, like, okay, I'm gonna spend this $100 million, I'm gonna make $1 billion, and then I'm going to donate $900 million from the $1 billion that I make. That's one thing. But that ain't happening.
Right. Right. The producers, the actors getting paid millions.
You feel me? Like it's and I really thought, I'm like, man, like, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't use any amount of money to make a movie, but like I do think even in stuff like that, like there can be some type of ration, I guess, if you will, to that should, I guess, be implemented in that, because once again, with all the people starving and suffering and people needing stimulus checks or whatever, like there's $100 million out there to make one movie. Yep. To make it. Not even with, and that's not guaranteed that it's going to make $1 billion. That's just what they're projecting. They're like, okay, we're going to pay to have all these special effects. We're going to pay to shoot in this country, to have these superstars in it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to pay for all of that so that we can make this huge profit. But then, we'll give, Joel Osteen hell. You know what I'm saying? For or whoever else hell for having a Lamborghini or private jet or whatever. But you're making a movie. You know what I'm saying? Or a TV show for $100 million without any plan to make more for the sense of giving more. You're making more so you can make more money. You know what I'm saying? Like so that, to your point, Janessa, like that evil, that greed, that like that stuff exists in, you know, in more ways than we can, you know, imagine, really. You know what I'm saying? But we don't, and who, you know, is that 100% God's fault or not? I don't know. I just always, as an adult, and especially since we've been having this podcast, like I keep reevaluating like what I've been taught growing up. You know what I'm saying? And even what I believe, which is, you know, God is creator, God is in control. You know, and I don't know how I can say God is in control when I only need him to, you know, make sure I can pay rent this month, or heal my family member that got COVID. I just want to make sure that, you know, they don't pass away from this thing. Like, it's easy to say God is in control in those ways, but then in these other ways where like evil is present, we're then saying it's the devil. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I have not seen in any story in the Bible where the devil had reigned supreme over Jesus, God, or anything. It was just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even when Jesus was down bad as far as like getting crucified and the devil tried to tempt him, like Jesus was only allowing that stuff to keep happening because it was God's will. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if it wasn't God's will, like the devil wouldn't even have had that little fun. You know what I'm saying? But these were all things that that God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit allowed to happen. And so if you're allowing evil things to happen, even to your own only begotten son, it kind of seems like that's just the setup of life. It's a time and a place for everything. Like there is a time for good, but there's also a time for bad and tragedy, you know, and all these other things. And, you know, I don't know what determines, you know, who gets to go through a worse tragedy or not, you know, which is probably why that dude felt like his prayers were more powerful. Because he like, man, I done been through more shit. You know what I'm saying? I done been through more hells. But, you know, I don't know how that works. But ultimately, I don't think women are the sole reason, you know, just as far as the topic. I don't think it's on women. I mean, can they have a part in it? Sure. But I think as far as humans are concerned, man and woman are pretty equal, if not even being more of the man's fault, because, you know, you was here first, you got the instruction, and you could have easily told Eve no, you know what I'm saying, but you didn't. So
I agree with that point.
That's a great way to tie it all up.
I agree with that point. Agreed.
Okay. All righty.
So you can find us on you can find us on Instagram at The Worst Ones PK. New content coming soon.
You should just say new content coming, but when you say soon, it puts an expectation on it. You know, just new content coming, and that way, even if it's 5 years from now, you weren't lying.
It wasn't a lie.
Oh, soon is relative.
See, God is in eternity. God is in eternity. Soon to him isn't the same.
Right.
Saying Jesus is coming back. We don't know it. We say he's coming back soon.
Oh, exactly. It's been how many years? He hadn't come back yet. Yeah.
2000.
So it's coming.
I got
Soon.
you.
See, you see how Jesus just been mentoring and leading us all these years, paving the way.
Right, exactly. But let me tell you what is consistent.
Hey.
Every Tuesday, you can find us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you can find your podcast. Just type in The Worst Ones Podcast. The person who is responsible for dropping them episodes every week, own it. Every Tuesday. And when you get there every Tuesday, you make sure that you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. You may be better off sharing the YouTube and the podcast pages than you are giving the Instagram pages. But I promise you, I get an alert to my phone every Tuesday. The Worst Ones podcast has dropped. We in here. We consistent. Thank you to our 500,100,003 followers. We love you so very much. If any of you would like to find me on my personal page, it is at Princess Kels 51. It remains private.
Now, why don't you just make a page for
A
the
fake
worst
one?
ones? Like the worst ones, Kelly. And then boom.
I don't know what I would post on it, but that's a great idea.
I don't know either.
But that's a good idea. I consider that one. I like that.
Well, you can follow me because my pages are public at Melanated Brews and at JBrianna _. We have fun over there, just not recently, not for the past couple of months. That's all right. That's all right. Because today we're drinking wine, not beer. It's not even what Melanated Brews is about, but yeah.
It's still melanated. No,
There you go. It's
still melanated, just not coffee and brews.
I can't.
It's pressed. It's pressed. That actually melanated pressed is a whole thing because the silk press, the hot comb. Let me save that for something else. Not anywho. That's all I got.
I got you. All right. Shout out at Terry Wayne Comedy. You can follow Terry Wayne on his all social medias at Terry Wayne Comedy. He's performing again. He was at the West Palm Beach Improv just now. And then for myself, at the podcast official page, we just had another episode, so we'll do it again next month, the last Monday of every month. If you want to join that podcast, we do it live on Zoom. 815-499-0955 is the Zoom ID.
What was the topic for the most recent one?
How important is sex?
Oh, what do people say? How important is sex?
So a lot of more seasoned people, a lot of them had the same, answer in reference to it's more important when you're younger, but as you get older, it becomes, less and less important. Obviously, I'm not there yet. And,
still important
every night.
Still important.
Snap.
Still important in my book. But I mean, it was a lot of people had a lot of different answers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it got pretty interesting. It'll be a good one to check out on YouTube. Because we had people from all different perspectives, male, female, old, young. So be a good one to watch. But please watch this one. Please subscribe, comment. Please ultimately share. And if we have any interested sponsors, holla at us. But until next time, we out.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.